The advice and opinions expressed by Dr. Grant-Pichet and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice.
Dr. Doreen Grant-Pichet is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Grant-Pichet.
Dr. Grant-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grant-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grant-Pichet is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen. Good morning and welcome to Ask Dr. Doreen. I'm Shannon Penrod and I'm sitting here with the fabulous Dr. Doreen Grant-Pichet. She looks fabulous today and it's so good to be back here with her.
Good morning.
Good morning. I never remember to let you speak.
No problem. Good morning, everyone.
Thrilled to have you back in the chair because we haven't had you for a couple of weeks for very important reasons. But want to remind everybody that if you're new to the program, Dr. Doreen Grant-Pichet is a true expert in the field of autism. She's been working in this field for more than 45 years. She's been a mover and a shaker. She's still a mover and a shaker.
It looks like I'm going to keep working in this field.
And yes, I think you are officially unretired at this point. And we're very excited because she donates this hour to be here with us and to answer your questions worldwide live right now. We're live right now on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and about a dozen other sites. Very soon, our fabulous Traven will remind you all the different ways that you can be watching the show, either live or in podcast, because the show is available in podcast. In fact, it's available in more ways on podcast right now than it ever was before. So, right now, if you want to check out the Ask Dr. Doreen podcast, you can still do it for a couple of more weeks if you've subscribed. You're still going to get it on Autism Live for a couple of more weeks. We're giving you time because eventually you need to subscribe over on the actual Ask Dr. Doreen on her website. You can subscribe, and it's its own app now. It's just too big.
Exciting.
It needed to be its own thing. It is very exciting. The app is coming so that you can get the app as well. Mm-hmm. For those of you who don't know, Autism Live, when you've been watching things or listening in podcast, obviously there are ads that run during the program, which we hope that you guys are checking out. Some of you have expressed an interest and said, I would rather not listen to the ads. Can I get a paid version and be getting an ad-free version? And so we've made that available for you. I think we're showing you how you would do that, but you want to go to glow.fm/autism live, and you can subscribe there to be able to get the podcast for a small cost. It's $5 a month, or it's even cheaper if you do it for the year. And then you get automatically you get all the versions without the ads.
That's
which
awesome.
Is
yeah,
a lovely thing.
And it's many years of stuff, right?
Many years of stuff. So Susie B, we're saying hello to you, and Sriniketh, we're saying hello to you as well. So they said, glad to see your hair growing back, Shannon. And the truth is, I just buzzed it again.
Did you?
I did just, well, it doesn't. I need you to do it from now on. You did a much better job.
I was just so happy when I was doing it. I was just thinking about that yesterday. I was like, why was I so enjoy when I was shaping your head? What is that about?
I think what do the kids call it? ASMR, when you watch things online and it's just satisfying.
Yeah.
I think that was satisfying for you. And I was shaving it yesterday in the bathroom, and I was like, I just need Dr. Doreen to do it for me always.
Do it once a month.
Well, once a month.
Here and I'll gladly.
Because I missed a spot and I have a cowlick, and it's just, whatever. But thank you. I don't want to go back down to the all the way bald. That was a little bit much, but I like it really short,
I love
especially
it on
in
you
this
too.
heat.
Well, let me tell
I can't handle
this
it.
looks so good on you
Oh,
too.
thank you.
It really does.
Well, I have crazy hair, and I look crazier when it's longer. So, whatever. It's just too hot here. So anyway, we're saying hello to Jose, who's writing in from Calgary, Canada, and Parker. Our Facebook and YouTube still going to be available, and will the previous podcast episodes be available in archive? All of it is still available, Parker, absolutely all of it. We're not getting rid of anything. The Facebook and the YouTube are all staying there the same. We're actually talking about the podcast because some people listen in their car and there are ads that are placed on that, which are wonderful. Listen to those ads, but if you don't want to, there is another version as well. So Maggie, hello to you as well from both of us. So those of you who watch the show, we all know we always like to start with a starter topic. It's not the be-all, end-all. We'll take questions about anything, and the questions are open right now. As you can tell, we've been talking to people on Facebook and YouTube and other sites as well. But our topic this week is the role of family in autism therapy, because I think this is greatly misunderstood, and people write in with questions. Our first question was, I have a question for Dr. Doreen. We've started ABA services, and we chose center-based because my husband and I both work. We're a little surprised at how much we're being asked to come to the center for training and other things. I don't mind it because my job is flexible, but my husband's job really isn't. He thought this would be like school. We drop our son off and pick him up, and every once in a while parents are invited to see a presentation. But we aren't at a school ever asked to learn how to teach the lesson to our child. Right. My husband feels very pressured and feels like the team is judging him when he can't attend. He's pressuring me to stop ABA and just put our son in preschool. This is a very familiar tale that I hear from people. I feel pressured on both ends, but I believe that ABA is going to help our son, and I want to do whatever I need to do. What is the role of family? Is it normal that we're being asked to do and learn so much? Great question.
Great question, and I'm actually really proud of whoever your ABA provider is, because they're doing the right thing.
Yes.
So I guess I'll start by just talking about how ABA is different from school. You go to school and essentially, there's of course a skill to being a teacher, right? But nevertheless, you are speaking English as a teacher, and you are just doing it as a normal course of life. ABA is not that. You cannot just step into ABA. You must learn ABA. It's like a different language. It's a different way of communicating. It's not really about, it's a very different way of communicating. I don't know how to explain that. It's kind of like learning a new language. Yeah. So therefore, it becomes vital for you as parents to learn how to use ABA on a day-to-day basis. Your child might be at the center, I don't know, for anywhere between 10 hours a week to 30, 40 hours a week, I don't know. But the rest of their awake hours, you and everyone in the child's life need to be communicating in the same way. And I'll give you some examples of that. So for example, let's say your child is, I'll give you two examples. First, I'll give you an example of challenging behavior. So let's say your child has tantrums, and the ABA team is trying to teach your child not to tantrum, but to communicate otherwise. Because remember, from a behavioral perspective, all challenging behaviors are a form of communication. The child's trying to say something. Usually when it's a tantrum, they're trying to say, I don't want something that you're trying to impose on them, or I want something that they don't have access to, right? So in ABA, what they will do is they will not give that item, object, activity, whatever it is, if the child tantrums. Instead, they will prompt and teach the child to communicate in a different way, and then they'll give the item, okay? And that way your child learns, oh, the tantrum is not really effective, communicating is effective. Now your child comes home or wakes up in the morning, whatever times that they're not at the center, and they tantrum. What do? If you don't know what to do, it's likely that you'll just give the child that object that they're tantruming for. That's how we usually are with our kids. And then your child will be very confused. They'll be like, hold on a second, when I tantrum here, I'll get the objects. When I tantrum there, I don't get the objects. So which one is it? What's the rule that governs behavior? What am I supposed to do here? Mm-hmm. So that doesn't just mess things up for you at home. In fact, it severely causes problems at home because there's a thing called behavioral contrast. Child will start increasing their challenging behaviors at home and really decreasing them at school, at the center. But that's not the only issue. The issue is your child gets confused. They don't know the rules. So it'll take a lot longer for that challenging behavior to decrease. Okay, so it's because they're speaking a certain language that they've now learned and you're not there yet. That's an example of a challenging behavior situation. And there's many of those, right? I mean, you need to know exactly what to do if your child's tantruming in a mall, at a restaurant. What if your child runs away? How do you deal with that? What if your child spits at you or bites? What do you do? There's all these different scenarios in life, and you need to be trained because a behavior therapist or a BCBA is not with you at those times. Now, let's look at another scenario, which is skill learning. So let's say, for instance, your child is now learning language through their ABA, and they have been taught at the center or are being taught to request things in 3-word phrases like, I want milk, I want juice, whatever it is. But you're not trained, and they come home, and at home, all they have to do is take you by the hand and put your hand on the object, and that's how you used to communicate, so you'll give them the object. That will, again, slow down your child's acquisition, your child's learning, because now the child's thinking, well, which one is the rule? Am I supposed to use 3 words, or do I just take someone by the hand? So this consistency that I'm talking about is so vital that if you don't have it, it's going to really, really mess up your program and really, really delay things for your child. That's why it's important to be trained. Now, the training doesn't have to be intensive and forever, right? Like everyone can learn the basic techniques within, let's say, a full week. So I think what your husband might want to do, which might be more interesting to him, is he might want to literally infuse it, like take a week off if he can, and infuse himself in the training, both online and with the team at the center, and that might help him really understand ABA a little bit better. And then from there on, he would maybe have, like, once a week or once every 2 weeks, an hour call or meeting with the supervisor. It's not going to go on forever, but the more you infuse yourself, the more this is going to help your child. That being said, I know that there's going to be a lot of parents listening to this thinking, I just can't do it. Like, I just can't do it. I'm overwhelmed already. I really need support and help. I cannot get involved with this. And that's fine too. It's just that you need to have an open conversation. Please do not stop your ABA. Have an open conversation with your supervisor, the BCBA in charge of your child's program. Maybe they can make some accommodations. Maybe they can come to the house. Maybe they can put signs up everywhere. Maybe they can give your husband and you very short lessons in things to do. It doesn't have to necessarily be at the office, at the clinic. They can also try to do some of this stuff on Zoom. A lot of the theoretical basis of it that I'm talking about right now, they can certainly provide to you via Zoom, for instance, so that you just start to become familiar. But it is important. It contributes to the well-being of your child.
Absolutely. And can I just say from the emotional side, how normal this is?
Yeah.
How normal that you're surprised,
Yes.
how normal that your husband is saying, this isn't working for us, let's do something else. This is so common.
Yeah.
But I hope that you won't let that be the status quo and that you won't allow yourself to feel pressured, that you will acknowledge that part of it is that your husband is feeling powerless, like I don't know
Absolutely
what
right.
to do. What I remember is that I got very on board with ABA because I'd seen a kiddo who is doing amazingly, and that we have to say is going to be playing at a very important concert happening on September 9th. He's going to be playing the drums for Toto. This is a kiddo that I met when he was 4 in the middle of therapy, and now he's a professional drummer playing at an event that Ringo Starr is playing at that benefits the Ed Asner Center.
I know. I love this so much. I can't even tell you.
But I saw this kiddo when he was 4, and he was my inspiration to come and meet you and to start doing ABA. And I got all on board. And my husband, my husband is amazing, and he said, "That's great, let's do that." But then once we started doing it, he was like,
yours.
"I don't have you do it. And I will say that for a period of time, I didn't really know what I was doing either. And I was having that, oh, I don't get it. And why can the BTs that come in do things with him and I can't do it? And then about, I don't know, 4 months in, a day came where my husband would come home from work and the therapists would be there. We called them therapists back then, technicians now. But one of them said to my son, said his name and said, come here. And my son came over and they did something and happily played together and then they left. And then I said, oh, Jem, come here. I want to show you something. And here he came and he came to me. And my husband kind of watched this. And so he said, Jem, come here. And Jem did not come to him. And he tried this for like 5 days. And I wasn't really tuned into that because I was on so many other planets at the time. And then finally, my husband came to me in tears and said, I don't get it. What am I doing wrong? When you call him, when Peter calls him, when Dominique calls him, he comes to them. Why is he not coming for me? And it was not my best moment. It was not my grace moment. But I said, well, you better learn this stuff because otherwise we're going to leave you behind.
Yeah.
I said, you better get with it and start paying attention and learn what they do.
Yeah.
And so he did. And after that, I heard Holly Robinson Peete tell almost the same story.
Yeah.
That she went to Rodney and said, hey, pal, I'm on Autism Avenue, and you either get here with me and learn what this is, or we will leave you behind. I don't know that that's the best technique, but it's what we went through. But I know that even if your husband won't do it right now, you do it, and eventually he'll want to do it too. But push, prod, cajole, bargain, whatever, to get the husbands involved. Because I will tell you a secret, when the husbands understand it, they get real good and zealous.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with all of that. And I always, this is the analyst in me,
yes.
you know? And I always
say the better way.
No, I just always think, why do the dads sometimes have a hard time coming on board? And it's a lot of different reasons, and I feel like you gotta kind of see their perspective as usual and try to understand where they're coming from as well. I mean, there's a group of dads that are just kind of like, they grew up with the thinking that the child and everything having to do with the child is your issue. I go to work. That's the older thinking, right? And that they're like, I've learned everything I need to learn. I don't need to do more now. I'm tired when I come home. This is not that we're not tired, we are, but someone needs to pick up the ball, right?
Yeah.
There's a group of dads that don't want to fail, so failing is a big deal for them, and they're thinking, I'm going to fail at this, so I'd rather not even try it.
Yep.
There's a group of dads that are so devastated from giving up the vision and dream that they had for their child that they're frozen.
Yeah.
So, every person has a different thing that's causing them to not interact, not engage, and I promise you, this is one of the things I love about, I'm a Middle Eastern woman that grew up in the States, and this is one of the things I love about American women, is that there's this expectation in America that everything is shared, and that's really a beautiful thing, which doesn't really exist in all other countries yet.
Yeah.
But it's up to you as mom, I guess, to make sure that dad understands that he's got to be part of the team.
Yeah.
In one way or another,
Yeah.
because this is not easy. I mean, my hat off to, there are a lot of single moms that I know whose children have recovered, and they're just spectacular human beings. But this is not easy. You need a village, and dad is part of that village.
Absolutely.
A very important part of that village.
Absolutely. There is a dad's online support group now. You know the gentleman that do the my two
dads,
just two dads. That's what it is. Not my just two dads. They do podcasts. They were part of our podcast-a-thon. And they have a dad support group too.
Yeah, I love that.
Where special needs dads talk to each other.
Perfect.
So, something that if you want to tell your husband about, because I think that they need a community to talk about with as well.
Definitely.
Okay, moving on, because we've got a lot of questions coming in and some that we promised we would do. Hi, Dr. Doreen. My son was diagnosed with autism when he was 3.5 years. Now he is 5 years. He can communicate using 4 to 5 word sentences. The main problem with him is his rigid behavior when wearing clothes. He likes to wear just a few pairs of clothes. He does not have any tactile issues. How to overcome this problem, and thanks.
Yeah, so thanks for answering the question I had, which is, does he have sensory issues? And you're sure that he doesn't. That's fine. Then that basically means he's just trying to gain control, which is kind of like, I don't want to call it obsessive compulsive behavior, but it's ritualistic. So, and whenever we have any kind of behavior that is ritualistic, it's usually because we have a little bit of anxiety and we're trying to gain control. And I'll give you some examples of that. For instance, if you're running late to a place, a meeting, it is extremely unlikely that you'll go a new direction because you want to have control over your path, because it makes you feel more calm knowing that you know your way.
You know the variables.
You know the variables, and you feel like, even though you can't, because there might be traffic there too, but you feel more in control. It's just about how you feel, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, here's another example that's even closer to this. If you're going to, let's say, go to some important event, you're very unlikely to try on new clothing or wear new clothing. You will very likely fall back on clothing that you're familiar with because you just feel like, well, this worked for me, I'm going to try it again. So it's just a matter of having control over the situation. I think there's a couple of different ways. First of all, don't fuss over this. This is not a big deal. Like, there's a million other things to worry about.
On the list of things, this isn't one
as
to
opposed
take on.
to, yeah, and I remember when I was, my kids were young, my youngest she had a major issue every morning because every single item she wore had to be pink and somehow go together. This is Charlie. And she still loves pink. It's her color, but it was a big deal when she was little and we had to get ready for school. So, I mean, there were times where I would literally, like the night before, go to Target to get pink shoes because I knew we're going to have an issue in the morning, you know?
Funny.
So I just think it's not worth the battle, first of all. But secondly, if you're really concerned and if it's a very, very narrow list of items, you can do two things. One is you can go with the child and actually purchase clothes that the child might show any interest in. And that would be good because it's kind of like buying the child a toy that they like and they will probably use it. Or the other thing is you can start by rewarding like the child's use of a small other item. So for instance, I don't know, a new pair of socks that the child might not otherwise wear, you would try to get the child to wear them and reward it with some other more powerful reward. For instance, I don't know, a cookie or something that the child finds very reinforcing. And that's how you do it. You basically say, these pants you can wear, these pants come with a cookie. So, you know, you basically increase the power of reward by just adding to the reinforcer and then gradually shaping, right? Gradually your child will broaden and you can do this in lots of different fun ways. You can hide a candy or something in the pants pockets, whatever, you know, so that your child realizes, oh, if I move to these other items, they're more rewarding. Or another way to reward is also, if you wear these clothes, we're going to go to a place you like. Whereas if you wear these clothes, we're not. You know?
There we go. Srinika says, my 5.5-year-old son will have his paternal grandma coming over in a few months. Can you suggest how she, the grandma, can be prepared for when she's here? She's seeing him after 3.5 years and the first time after his ASD diagnosis.
Oh, that's a really good question.
It is.
I think it might not be bad for you to, maybe take some video, send snippets of video to your mother. It wouldn't be bad to even start training your mother a little bit. So for instance, so there's generally speaking, there's two different setups where parents are concerned that their child looks a little different, right? One is if the child's not communicating the same as other kids, and the other one is if the child's having a challenging behavior. So maybe you want to familiarize your mom to those two scenarios and also teach her ahead of time, give her some ideas of how to react if that happens. So if your child tantrum, so like for instance, send your mom a small video if your child's having a tantrum and say, Mom, this is not a big deal. Don't worry about this. He's just trying to communicate this way.
Right.
What we do is we don't give in, we don't do this, we don't interact with him, etc. But I don't want you to be shocked when you come here. Yeah. The other thing is like, look, like Mom, we always are trying to make him give eye contact and give a communication or interact and not isolate himself. These are some of the ways we do it. So you can send her a few things just so she's prepared, because more so than not, it's not so much that the parent becomes shocked or sad. It's more that the grandparent starts to do things that are not necessarily approved by your treatment team.
Yeah.
That it becomes a very, very common problem because, grandparents, we just want to hug our kids and make them okay that way.
Yeah. And they're crying, give them a lollipop.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
I mean, that's so old school.
Yeah, but that's what we do. I do that with my children's dogs. I spoil them. I totally do.
Yeah.
Nikki brings her dog over and I'm like giving the dog all kinds of stuff. And she's like, Mom, don't give him. I'm like, I can't. He's too cute.
How are you going to be a grandparent? It's going to be terrible. It's hard. This is a really hard thing. And especially because I think as I read the question, it's not their mother, it's the other person's mother.
Oh, paternal,
which is even harder.
Yeah, very, very hard.
Because it's not your mom.
Yeah, you need to get your husband involved in that one.
Yeah.
It's tough.
It is tough. Be kind to yourself and know that it's not gonna be perfect.
Yeah, and also, yeah, absolutely. It's not gonna be perfect, but also I think if you take it lightly, they might take it lightly.
Okay.
Like in other words, just, oh, it's okay, don't worry. Like, be light about it.
Yeah.
Don't be stressed out. The more we are stressed out, the more our parents are.
Yeah. I didn't have a paternal grandmother to come and visit Jem, so I didn't go through that. But my mom was a car full of clowns, fun in terms of this.
Yeah.
And I think I tried all different kinds of things, but one of the things, because my mom liked to feel needed. And she liked to feel like I valued her opinion.
Of course.
So one of the things that I did was I said to her, I really need your help.
Yes.
And here's the thing that we're doing right now, and I need your help with this.
Yes.
And said to her, when he does, and I got very granular, we're working on this right now. When he does this, we respond this way, and I'm not good at it, Mom. I need you to help me to not react to it.
There you
go. So then she was policing me instead of him.
She became part of the solution.
I gave her a job.
Yes.
Because some people have to have
very
a job.
important.
Okay, I wanted to get to another question. Because I know this is going to start a firestorm. But this is one I promised Marina we would get to. Hello, Dr. Doreen. Can you please answer the below questions during one of your live sessions? 1, can autistic kids learn bad behavior from other kids, like pinching or mouthing, in ABA centers or special needs schools? And 2, when do you think a kid is ready to be moved from special school to mainstream school? Should we go with the school's decision, or should parents decide?
That's a great question.
But it's incendiary. Whenever somebody says, is it possible that a child can learn a maladaptive behavior from another child in a special needs class, it's a firestorm, and people say it's so unfair to ask that question. It gets very emotional and emotionally charged.
Yes, very true. So the first part of the question is can children model challenging behavior? The answer is yes, obviously they can. In a center, like in an ABA clinic, it's less likely because every child has their own therapist. And so the therapist is preventing a lot of that kind of behavior from happening. In classroom settings, it's more likely just because there's only one teacher, maybe one aide or two aides, but there's a group of kids, and you're not always going to be able to stop every child from, doing something challenging. And so your child will have more of an opportunity to see those types of behaviors. And what happens, the reason our kids model that kind of behavior is really important. It's like in an ABA clinic, if a child has a tantrum, they're not going to get the same level of attention. Whereas in a school, they will. In a classroom, they will, simply because there's all these other kids and the teacher's trying to prevent it from becoming disruptive to the other kids and so on. And so the child might be taken out. And your child is going to be smart enough and is going to see, oh, this child tantrums, he gets to go for a walk. I want to go for a walk. I guess I got a tantrum. So that's kind of how it happens. So yes, it's possible. And it's, I guess, look at it this way as a parent. I mean, it's not, if they do start modeling other kids' bad behavior, that's a good sign. That means your child's learning from their environment. So that's a good thing, but not something that you want to keep.
Right.
But it shows your child is modeling behavior from their environment. Now, the second part of it, which has to do with what should we do from special ed to regular ed, there's a lot of steps that are involved in this. In the old days, there at the top of an IEP document, there was always this kind of chart, which I kind of liked because it was the least restrictive to most restrictive chart. And it had multiple layers. And it, most restrictive would be in a full special education class and with an aid of their own. And the least restrictive would be just mainstreamed in regular ed. In between, there's a lot of phases. So, and you want to go through that hierarchy because sometimes you don't need to. Sometimes kids will just jump to a regular scenario. But even if a child goes from special ed to regular ed, I always will want them to have a one-to-one aid and then gradually fade out the aid because I want the child to have a very successful experience in regular ed, and I don't want them to have any kind of failure at all, right? So we want to take it slow. Usually the way that it works is that your child is in special ed, then your child goes to regular ed in 1 or 2 periods, let's say PE, or maybe lunch, interacts with the other kids. They always have an aide with them. Then you start to maybe increase the hours in regular ed, and you gradually get to a point where the child's just in regular ed. Now, that is for children who start out in special ed, and that's a whole different discussion of what's the child's skills and should they start out in special ed. My goal for any child that I treat is that I treat them and I teach them enough skills where when they go to school to begin with, they start out in regular ed with an aid, with a shadow. So I try to kind of jump over that whole phase of special ed. But there are children who benefit from that because they need the smaller classroom. They need the one-to-one attention also with the teacher. They need lots and lots of accommodations. So it's really a matter of what your child needs and then gradually taking away the support so that they can acclimate to a classroom. Remember, regular ed, you're going to have like 20, 30 kids in the classroom, one teacher, one aide. So your child needs to get to a point where they can actually do everything that's required of them in that setting. And until that happens, you need to do what you can to hold their hands through it.
Wonderful, wonderful response. Okay, so I do want to say that Sriniketh wrote back and said that she plans to take the mother-in-law to parent sessions along with her once she gets there. Do you suggest that that's a good idea?
Yes, of course. And again, it really depends on, Shannon, I want you to say the story of your mom saying, what on earth are you guys doing?
Yeah, I mean, my mother... I made her stay away for 6 months when we started therapy because I knew I couldn't have her voice. And then when I finally said, okay, you can come and visit, but we're doing this thing and I need support or silence, and this did not go over well. And then she came and she saw the first little thing, and the way it was set up, because we were in a little teeny tiny condo and they didn't have centers back then. So the therapists were in the living room working with him and we had cameras. So my mother and I went into the bedroom and she was sitting in there knitting and we were both watching on the camera. And she said, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah.
What on earth have you bought into? It's like some crazy, this is the stupidest thing I have ever seen. And if she had said that in the first week, it would have eaten at me, right?
Yeah.
Because, I'm sorry, it does look kind of crazy.
Yeah, sure,
I mean, it just does. But, I always say to therapists, when they would say to me, we're going to help him to go to college, and then they would say, touch car, and I would be like, how are we going to get to college from car?
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, but 6 months in, I was confident. I was strong. I knew it was helping my child. So when my mother said, this is the stupidest thing, what have you bought into? I was fine. And I said to her, just watch.
Yeah.
Just watch, Mom. I didn't have to argue with her. I didn't have to explain it. I said, just sit there and watch. She sat there for 4 days. And they were teaching him at that particular time categories and features and things. So they were showing him a car, and he knew what a car was, but then they were saying a car is a vehicle. And what else are vehicles? Like a van is a vehicle, and a motorcycle is a vehicle, and what are the differences between them? Well, a motorcycle has 2 wheels.
Yeah.
And the beginning of the week, this was all, he didn't get this at all. And they were doing it with animals too. Like, this is a bird, but a bird is an animal, and what are some features of a bird? And I remember on the 4th day, we had these little Fisher-Price things, and there was the bird, and the technician set it there and said, "What is it?" And Jem said, "It's a bird, and a bird is an animal, and a bird has wings, and a bird can fly." And then the behavior technician went, "Yes!" And my son put up his hands, and they did this celebration. And my mother stood up and said, "Wow, this is amazing. I watched them teach this to him. He now understands that it's not just a word, a bird. It's a thing." And she was, and I get goosebumps even talking about it because she was so excited. She said, "Why isn't this on the nightly news? Why does no one talk about this? This is the most amazing thing ever." And I said, "Mom, 4 days ago you said this was the stupidest thing." "I didn't know. I didn't see it. I didn't understand." But she literally had to sit there and watch for 4 days before she got it.
Yeah, and that's a better answer to this question. It's every parent is different, right? But if you take your parent to a training or a parent session, I think they'll probably learn a lot. It depends, right? I mean, it's just some parents might react more to it. They might need to see more.
Yeah.
They might need to see more.
And we did take my mom to sessions when we would do clinics, we would bring her when she was here. And after that, she loved it. And boy, she wanted to learn. She was like, "Show me, I don't know how to get him to do this."
Right.
And he doesn't listen to me. Show me what I'm doing wrong. And she was excited to learn it. And she became one of his best advocates.
Yes.
And he loved it when she would come to visit. I would never have guessed that was going to be a possibility if I'd gone by where we started. So just saying. I want to get to Parker's question, because Parker's been waiting for a couple of weeks for this. Parker found this on Reddit and really would like for us to weigh in on this. A parent wrote in and said, "I'm so upset for my son at the moment. He's a pretty severely autistic 5-year-old, nonverbal. We were invited to a birthday party by a family who knows us well. Their daughter is also on the spectrum, but not nearly as high needs. We arrived at the party to discover that it was a gymnastics class where the kids had to follow instructions, stay confined to one area, and wait in line to take turns. These are all things my son has not yet learned how to do, and this family is very aware of his skill set. I felt totally blindsided and immediately knew my son was going to hate this experience. I had to essentially do the class while holding his hand as he screamed because he wasn't allowed to do anything else. I felt mad because I have had explicit conversations with this mom surrounding my son's ability to be in a class that's structured. I asked her advice regarding extracurricular because of this. And I just felt like, as a fellow ASD mom, she should have at least given me the heads up. I would have passed on it. Knowing my son would have hated it. Are my feelings valid? Am I being self-centered, thinking that everyone should consider my son knowing his circumstances? It honestly makes me want to distance myself. I try to make friends with other ASD families, but their kids are always more independent than my son, and I feel like I can't relate. So I end up not wanting to be around them, hearing them complain about things I would dream to have my son do as a particular trigger. I have another son that is neurotypical, and I didn't want him to feel left out, so we stayed. Help me.
I'm so sorry. I just feel your pain, and of course your feelings are valid. Every person's feelings are valid. I don't think you're being self-centered. I think you're being just protective of your child, and it's understandable. None of us want our kids to fail at a situation. None of us want our kids to struggle. None of us, no human being likes to see their child screaming or crying and being forced to go through a thing. So I completely understand where you're coming from, and it is completely fine to find a different group. You do not need to, this is a very common thing, by the way, that parents will compare And it's a natural thing, you know, right? Like every parent will want their child to do more, do better, etc. Don't focus on that, the external factors that make you worry. Focus more on, am I doing everything my child needs? That's all it's about. Am I doing do I have for my child what he needs, the program that he needs, the best that can, you know, bring about success for him, whatever success for him might mean. I think that's the key to it. And it's really not about, I mean, like this brings up a whole nother thing for me. It's like a lot of times parents will get very comfortable in a program and then they want to stay in that program no matter what because they're comfortable.
Right.
Not because the child is necessarily progressing or doing well or whatever, but it becomes about their comfort. And let me tell you, your comfort desiring comfort is valid. That's a very valid emotion for sure. But it's not about, and it's hard to say this, but it's about doing all the things that are the right thing for your child, whether they're comfortable or not comfortable or whatever it is. And so I can't really tell you what to do because I don't know your child's capabilities. But to me, right off the bat, it sounds like your child might need more one-on-one. Your child might need more help coping with sensory situations. Maybe you make it a plan, a lesson to acclimate your child to an environment like this so the next time this comes up, you've taught it to him and he's comfortable. So how do you do that? Focus on those types of things. How do I teach my child so that next time they're in a class setting, they can handle it? And those are steps, and every child can learn that. It's just a matter of doing it at their pace.
Yeah. This is so hard.
It's so hard.
And I got to tell you, I think everybody has gone through some degree of this, but for parents of kids that are on the more severe side, look, I don't think any of us can fully appreciate what it's like for each individual parent because it's individual. And this parent went on to write more because they have a neurotypical twin, and she's afraid of the resentment that they will feel. So, you know, I want to very carefully, because I'm a lucky parent. I'm one of the parents that has a kid, and I want to be respectful here. But one of the things that I would suggest to any parent, but especially this parent, is I hope you're getting good ABA. And this is one of those things that I feel people don't talk enough about this anymore in this day and age in ABA. There's something called community outings, and your insurance will fund your a behavior technician going with you to a place for a community outing, and this would be one that would be ideal.
Yes.
If you had a behavior technician with you at this party to work on those things, yes, I agree with you, they should be working on it outside the party too. But if you know, it's one of those things that you've got 2 kids and you're having to play Sophie's Choice all the time. And I just want to lovingly say to you, maybe that's way too much for one person to have to do at a birthday party.
Exactly.
Cut yourself some slack and have a behavior technician go with you who's responsible for taking care of your child and having it be a learning educational experience for them.
Absolutely.
While you're there to be a mom, you know, to both boys, but not being in charge of the custodial care of the child or the educational experience of the child.
And if you can't, then could you have possibly taken your special needs child for a walk while your other child interacted with the kids?
Absolutely.
I mean, like, first of all, yes, as Shannon said, get help. Because you have twins. And there's a lot of scenarios where 2 parents can't even handle a child with autism. So you're now one parent and you're handling both kids. I really try to get resources that can go with you, your husband, a cousin, a friend, someone, or just go for a walk. Take it easy on yourself, take it easy on the other child, and let your typical child just enjoy.
And just to normalize that, I've been at lots of birthday parties where, you know, there'll be an older kid, and I'm just talking neurotypical kids, an older kid and mom has a baby and the baby starts to fuss and mom says, I'm gonna go sit in the car with the baby for a half an hour and I'll come back.
Yes.
And that is totally acceptable.
How you wanna deal with it.
But I think the problem the thing that we all fall into is expecting that somebody else is gonna totally get it and support us. And I think the biggest betrayal here is thinking this was another ASD mom and so she was gonna help you out.
Yeah.
And I gotta got to
Yeah.
tell you, you have every right to think that, but you're going to get disappointed on a regular basis. And I don't think
Yeah.
it's because that mom is trying to deliberately tank you. I think that mom was probably worried about 1,000,008 other things and wasn't thinking about you.
Yeah.
And she was probably doing the best that she
It's
could.
her child's birthday, so it's kind of like she's focused on trying to make it right for her child as well.
But you need to do that for your child. So don't feel a bit bad about
Yeah.
that. Don't feel selfish, feel self-full, right?
Yes. Yes.
So anyway, okay. I have to acknowledge that Autism Journey with Elijah, they said, I know this is off topic. It's never off topic, but I have to share. Hello, ladies. I finally have service coming back. They went to an event in Chicago. This is the one. And you had graciously agreed to send a bunch of DVDs.
Yes.
And she, bless her, she purchased a bunch of my books.
Amazing.
Bless her to death. And she went and she said, I just want you guys to know it was a hit and people were asking
awesome.
about you both. And boy, did I tell them all about you both. It was a huge success and I want to say a big thank you. We thank you. You're out
Thank
there.
you. You're like a gem of a mom.
I
like
know,
a person
she's
in
amazing.
this community. I love
She's a powerhouse.
powerhouse.
Okay, another question that we had come in. My little brother, this is about the family and autism. My little brother was diagnosed with autism last year. I am 16 years old and not very close with him. My parents have started having people come to the house to do things with him. They want to know if I want to be involved. Is it bad if I say no? I don't think I can help him. I'm not really patient.
Yeah. No, it's not bad at all if you say no. Everybody has stuff going on in their own lives. And you don't need to add, but I just want to tell you that if you do join for a little period of time, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. There is nothing as enjoyable for me as having success with one trial with a child. Like, I cannot tell you the joy that brings to you when you, whatever it might be, when you tell a child do this and they do it and you reward them. That is like the best thing in the world. If you, one trial. So if you just do one tiny thing with your sibling and he learns, you will enjoy it so much. So I just recommend that you kind of like familiarize yourself. Just go in, see what they're doing. You don't have to become part of the team. This does not have to be every single day I have to do 2 hours of work with my sibling. Nothing like that. Just take a look.
But you know what's fascinating? I find that over the years, I mean, I just love individuals who are on the spectrum. I share that with you that, you know, you light up. Somebody that's on the spectrum comes in the room and you light up because you just want to talk to them and you, in whatever way that they communicate, and you want to connect with them. Yeah. And you light up. And I absolutely feel that now too. But I also find that when you talk to siblings, they're the kindest.
They're the most amazing human beings ever.
They are.
I totally agree.
They're like the people I want running the earth.
Yeah.
Because they're compassionate. And they do the best perspective taking on the planet. And I think once they all have, they'll be honest with you and say, yes, I feel some resentment in my childhood that it wasn't, or my teen years that sometimes it wasn't about me.
Right.
But they learn how to negotiate that, and so, which is a great life skill when it's not about you.
Yes.
So, you know, you're 16 years old, and I think how wonderful that you came and found this resource. It tells me a lot about you and how amazing you are that you have questions.
Honestly.
And honestly, you know, there are probably some things that are going on in your home that you're like, I don't get why my sibling is doing that. You could also, you know, not participate in what they're doing, but you could ask them some questions.
Yeah.
And maybe they would have some answers for you. And I think a lot of people that have asked questions and found answers have found that some of them have gone on to become therapists.
Like incredible therapists.
The best, right?
Yeah, and I love what you're saying, Shannon, right now, because there's also this thing about the less you know about something, the more it, and let's say there's something going on in your home and you don't really know what's going on, it just makes your home feel not like a home. It feels foreign. It's like that corner of the house is like this universe that I'm not going to touch.
Yeah.
So touch it, because it'll make you more comfortable. That's a very, very good point that you're making. It's just go see what's going on.
And you might find that it's a fascinating thing.
Yes, yes.
You might end up finding that it speaks to you in a way. I do think there's something genetic. I always, you know, in my one-woman show, I talk about the fact the first time I met a person that was on the autism spectrum, that something happened. I was 16 years old, in fact, and something inside of me that I could not explain when I was 16 kind of went, you know? And like there was something that I recognized that I couldn't put a name to, but I had this sort of, I don't know, not affinity. I still can't put a word to it. I don't think there's an English word for it. But years later, I would understand completely that I was like, there was a part of me genetically that was understanding, okay, I'm related to you in some way. That
it was so rare back then. So it's kind of interesting that you say that, because I grew up in England, right? I went to schools in England, and there was and it was a boarding school, but my parents would come and visit, and I lived in a different city than where my mom was, but they had a close family friends who had a child with autism, and so every single time that they would come to like visit or do something with me on the weekend, this young boy was with us, and so I grew up, and I'm talking age 4.
Wow.
With a individual who was probably at that time maybe 7 or 8 on the spectrum. And back then, we're talking 60s, no one knew anything about, like there was no way they would give him a diagnosis of autism. Of course, later they did as an adult. But, and he was very severe. Like he was very severe. He had a lot of challenging issues. But it's funny that you say that, because like I always felt very drawn to him as well, and I was 4. And this is our world.
It's fascinating. So, I think it's great that your parents are having people come in the house and ask them questions. Let's and then please feel free to write back in and ask any questions that you guys have. Okay, we have a couple of minutes here, and I want to, Ismael said sure, but I don't know sure to what. So if you want to write in more, Maggie says, my son is waitlisted for ABA. He just turned 10. His school schedule is 8:30 to 2:30. The hours of ABA would be from 3:30 to 6:30. I feel he will be exhausted to do ABA. What should I do in terms of the schedule?
Yeah, he won't, it's okay. It's not like, a lot of our kids, what do they do after school? It's not like they're free from 3:30 to 6:30, right? They either have, neurotypical kids even, they either have sports or activities or homework. So, it's pretty shocking how much our kids do. And ABA shouldn't be, it should be relatively rewarding for him. So, and as Shannon will attest, a lot of the times the ABA therapists become friends with the child.
Absolutely.
Because they're kind of speaking the same language. He's 10, so there's nothing else at this point you can do it. I always do feel like the kids learn, their brains are fresher in the morning, and we lose that time to school, which is kind of sad. But one of the things you might want to do is, if you don't want him to go every day from 3:30 to 6:30, which by the way is the toughest time frame for an ABA clinic to provide, because everybody wants 3:30 to 6:30.
Right. It's hard to staff.
It's very, very hard to staff that. So if you are on a wait list, it sounds like, and they can't staff that, consider giving him some of the hours on the weekend. Because a lot of ABA clinics are open on the weekends, and they're happy to provide that service.
And of course, you can always consider, I know I'm going to create anarchy here, but you can always consider taking him out of school for a few hours a day to do it early in the morning. School will hate that. They will want you, and let me just tell you a little trick, they will want your child to be there at least until 10:30, because if you bring your child in after 10:30, they don't get paid for your child for the day. So that's why they want them there until 10:30, then they get paid by the state, the government, whatever. So, but can I just say this, that in this generation, we're so terrified of our children being tired.
It's
and,
true.
And I want to challenge that a little bit.
It's true.
That in previous generations, kids went, they turned a certain age and they went out and worked in the field, and nobody was sitting there going, I think they're tired, right? And they were expected to do schoolwork and come home and work in the field. I'm not saying that that's ideal, but when we go to Disneyland and we're at Disneyland for 11-hour day, none of us are like, no, I think it's too much. Our children will be tired. Why is that? Because the children, they're getting a payoff for it too. And yes, do they get to a point where they're fussing because they're tired and they need a break?
Yeah.
For sure. But if it's the right ABA and they're making it fun enough, I think it's going to be good. And my great-grandmother always used to say that idle hands is the devil's playground, something like that. And she would say, you got to keep kids busy or they get into trouble.
It is true.
And our kids, if they aren't engaged, what are they left with?
What are they doing?
They're left to get into the crevices in their mind, and they will create something to do that's fun for them. And that might be doing this with a string, which is not, it helps them to regulate, but it's not educational for them.
Right.
So I just want to say, challenge the thought a little bit. And I went through this once with a parent a few years ago that had a 4-year-old, and I was really pushing her to do a 40-hour program.
Yeah.
She had the ability to do it, and she said to me, I really want what you have.
Yeah.
And I said, then give him the best chance, give him a 40-hour program, a 4-year-old. And he got really tired, and they had to stop the nap, and he got really tired. And one of the first days, at one point, he threw up.
Yeah.
And she went, oh, no.
I can't
He's
do
too
this.
tired, I can't do it. And I said, you want to ramp up. Let's not like cold turkey go to 40, but I said, I really want to challenge you. You told me you want what I have. This is the best chance for him.
Yep.
And she wrote me a year ago and that he is considered recovered. And she said, I just want to thank you because I would not have done that.
That's awesome.
And,
That's awesome.
and she says, people are like, what on earth did you do?
Yeah.
And she said, but I would not have believed. But I also want to say that after the first couple of weeks of doing 40 hours, she went, oh, okay, I would never have believed what a difference doing 40 hours. 40 hours is different than 30 hours. And 30 hours is different than 20 hours.
I know.
And 20 hours is different than 10 hours. You don't believe me? Go to the gym those number of hours and see what the output is.
Yeah.
It's just different. Anyway, I just got on a soapbox and I didn't mean to.
No, I'm totally with you. I agree. Yeah.
And she says it would be home therapy. I think, in that case too, there's all kinds of things that you can do at home to make sure that it's fun. And it's not like it's constant work. They'll give him breaks that are rewarding.
Absolutely right.
Anyway, we only have a couple of minutes. Is there anything that you want to talk about? Is there anything you want to announce?
Absolutely.
Do you want
I'd love
I didn't
to.
ask you beforehand. I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, no, of course. It's public knowledge, so I'd love
Okay.
to. So I don't know, some of our viewers will know that I founded an organization back in 1990 called CARD, Center for Autism and Related Disorders, and then I ran that organization as the CEO and for 30 years. So I worked tirelessly and with lots of love until the beginning of 2020. So my last month officially being CEO was the end of 2019. And I sold the company to another private equity company because I wanted to retire and we had already gotten to the point where we were 260 sites or 265 sites. We were huge across the US, and it was very exhausting, Shannon, as you remember, just trying to maintain it and trying to grow it, right? So, and it was a really good program, and I really wanted everyone to be able to receive this program, and so I wanted to expand more, but it was becoming just so difficult to continue expanding and continue taking care of with something like almost 7,000 behavior technicians and BCBAs and so on. It was big. So I sold it with the idea that this organization, this private equity firm, would come in and they would bring resources and they would bring advice and experience, and they would grow this thing so that there was 1,000 clinics. Why 260? But why not get to 1,000? And I honestly could have happened, but a lot of different factors came together. Of course, COVID was a big one. And there were other things, and so all in all, unfortunately, the organization had a lot of turnover, which means it lost a lot of employees, both top level and BT level. And there was a lot of transition, and there was just not a clear enough understanding of our field, I believe, and not a clear enough understanding of how, there were lots of issues. So long story short, unfortunately, the company had to declare bankruptcy. First, they shut down.
Let's say, too, you stepped away.
I stepped away. So I was initially on the board of the company for a few years, and then I resigned because I disagreed. Let's just put it that way. I disagreed, and I'm a pretty bossy person when it comes to telling people what to do with autism. So I wanted to get away from it. So I resigned, and I was away from it. And unfortunately, they ended up shutting down a lot of sites. They went down to 130 sites, and then they had to declare bankruptcy because they ran out of money, basically. And so when they went into bankruptcy, which was in, I think, June, that just passed, I found out about it, and I went in and attended a insane auction where there were a couple of other companies that had formed a coalition who wanted to buy CARD, but I felt that I really wanted to own CARD again and to bring it back to what we call the glory days, and take care of the employees and take care of the patients and try to grow it again and so on. And so after a very intense 5-day auction, I was successful, and I was able to buy back the vast majority of the company. So I bought back 112 sites. I had to partner with an organization that wanted those other 18 sites, and that's fine. They're a strong organization as well. And so we came together, and I was able to purchase CARD back. And now I am in this phase of diligence and work. The deal has not closed. It is public that we won the bid, but it closes on the 25th of August, at which point I will own CARD again. And obviously, I have a lot that I need to do. So, I just wanted to let everybody know that that's going on. And I'm right now working 12, 14-hour days trying to just catch up. But I'm excited about a few different things. I'm excited to get back in and help make things better, whether it's for the employees or for the patients or just for the organization, whatever it is, just help make things better. And also, I'm very excited to be able to go back and look at the dissemination of information through skills, the database, the actual curriculum and all that. And Shannon, let me tell you, we're going to start there this time. We're not going to, that is not going to be the last thing I do. That's going to be the first thing I do, because I am so determined, not just to go back and build up the sites and actually increase sites, but I'm very determined to get this program available and out there for families and the whole world. So that's what I'm really going to focus on.
I couldn't be more excited.
Yeah, thank you.
And proud of you
Thank
how
you.
you have conducted yourself, and just amazing.
Thank you.
So anyway, you guys will hear more about that in the future.
Yes.
So more to come on that. We have to let you go, but I also want to say, don't forget that tomorrow we have a very exciting event where we had Dr. Jed Baker on last week, and he said he would. His book, the Social Skills book, is having its 20th anniversary edition coming out. Amazing, and so he's going to be with us tomorrow to do a live Q&A for an hour during the show, and you guys can ask questions about social skills. I already have a couple of questions to start, but you can write in more. Awesome. That will be tomorrow live, Dr. Jed Baker. So you guys don't want to miss that. Make sure that you're here for that. All right, we'll see you then. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.
Bye, everyone.
Don't forget, you can watch Ask Dr. Doreen live every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific time. We hope to see you there.